Every adult relationship carries an invisible history. When two people meet, they do not bring only their present selves. They bring the child they once were. They bring what they learned about love. They bring what they learned about safety. They bring what they learned about silence, conflict, affection, rejection, attention, and trust. This is why adult relationships can awaken emotions that feel much older than the moment itself. A small disagreement can feel like danger. A delayed reply can feel like abandonment. A gentle correction can feel like shame. Partner's silence can feel like punishment. A friend's distance can feel like proof that we do not matter. And often, the intensity of the reaction does not come only from what just happened. It comes from what the moment touched. This is the focus of today's episode: how childhood shapes adult relationships. In the previous episode, we explored why trust is so hard to build and so easy to break. We looked at consistency, emotional safety, honesty, repair, and self-trust. But many of our deepest trust patterns began long before adulthood, before we knew how to explain our feelings, before we had language for emotional wounds, before we understood why certain moments made us feel afraid, ashamed, unseen, or unwanted. Childhood is where many people first learn what relationship means, not through lectures, through experience. A child learns from how adults respond when they cry. They learn from whether their feelings are comforted or dismissed. They learn from whether mistakes are met with patience or humiliation. They learn from whether love feels steady or unpredictable. They learn from whether honesty is welcomed or punished. They learn from whether home feels emotionally safe or emotionally tense, and these lessons do not disappear simply because a person grows older. They often become emotional expectations. A child who had to earn approval may become an adult who feels valuable only when they are useful. A child who was ignored may become an adult who panics when someone becomes distant. A child who was criticized often may become an adult who hears correction as rejection. A child who had to stay quiet to keep peace may become an adult who avoids honest conversation. A child who could not depend on others may become an adult who struggles to receive help. This does not mean childhood determines everything. People can heal, people can grow, people can learn new ways of relating. But childhood often creates the first emotional map, and unless that map is examined, we may follow it automatically, even when it leads us into repeated pain. One of the most common ways childhood shapes adult relationships is through attachment. Attachment is not only about affection, it is about whether closeness feels safe. Some people grow up with steady care. They learn that people can be trusted. They learn that needs can be expressed. They learn that conflict can be repaired. They learn that love does not disappear every time something goes wrong. Later, these people may find it easier to trust, communicate, and stay emotionally present. Not because their relationships are perfect, but because their nervous system has learned that connection can be safe. But other people grow up with uncertainty. Care may have been inconsistent, and day there was warmth, another day there was distance. Sometimes affection was available, sometimes it disappeared, sometimes a child was comforted, sometimes they were ignored. That kind of unpredictability can create anxious attachment. Later in life, the adult may become highly sensitive to signs of distance. They may overthink tone, silence, timing, facial expressions, or small changes in behavior. They may need reassurance often. They may fear being replaced, forgotten, or abandoned. And while the present relationship may be different from childhood, the body remembers uncertainty. Another person may grow up learning that emotions are not safe to show. They may have been told to stop crying. They may have been mocked for being sensitive. They may have learned that needing others leads to disappointment. So, they adapt, they become independent, they learn to handle things alone. They avoid depending on people too deeply. Later, this can become avoidant attachment. The adult may want love but feel uncomfortable with emotional closeness. They may pull away when things become too vulnerable. They may need space when someone asks for deeper connection. They may appear calm, detached, or uninterested, even when they care, not because they have no feelings, but because closeness activates a fear they may not fully understand. This is why relationships can become so difficult. One person may be reaching for reassurance because distance feels unsafe. Another may be pulling away because closeness feels overwhelming. Both are trying to protect themselves, but their protection systems clash. The anxious person thinks, "Why are you leaving me?" The avoidant person thinks, "Why are you pressuring me?" One fears abandonment, the other fears engulfment. And unless both people understand the deeper pattern, they may keep hurting each other while believing they are only defending themselves. Another childhood pattern that shapes adult relationships is the way people learn to handle conflict. In some homes, conflict was loud, frightening, or unpredictable. In others, conflict was hidden under silence. Some children grew up with shouting, some grew up with cold withdrawal, some grew up watching adults pretend nothing was wrong. Some grew up feeling responsible for keeping everyone calm. Later, these lessons shape how people respond to disagreement. A person who grew up around explosive conflict may become anxious whenever voices rise. They may try to end the conversation quickly. Even if the issue is important, they may apologize just to stop the tension. They may avoid bringing up problems because conflict feels like danger. Another person who grew up around emotional silence may not know how to discuss hard things. They may shut down. They may disappear emotionally. They may believe that talking about pain only makes things worse, and another person may repeat the very conflict style they grew up around. They may become harsh, defensive, dismissive, or controlling because that is what conflict looked like in their early environment. This is why people often say, "I do not know why I react this way." Their reaction may not begin with the present moment. It may begin with a memory stored in the body, a tone of voice, a facial expression, a closed door, a certain kind of silence, certain kind of criticism. The adult may be in the present, but emotionally, something old has been awakened. This is the natural midpoint of the episode. The goal is not to blame childhood for everything. That would be too simple. Childhood explains patterns, but it does not excuse harmful behavior forever. A person may have been hurt, but they are still responsible for how they treat others. A person may have learned unhealthy patterns, but they are still responsible for learning healthier ones. Understanding. The past is not about staying trapped in it. It is about gaining enough awareness to stop repeating it unconsciously. Because what we do not understand, we often recreate. A person who felt unseen may choose relationships where they continue to feel unseen. A person who had to earn love may keep overgiving to be accepted. A person who feared abandonment may hold on to unhealthy relationships too long. Person who feared closeness may leave every time intimacy becomes real. A person who grew up with criticism may become critical of themselves and others, not because they want pain, but because familiar pain can feel strangely normal. This is one of the most important truths about childhood patterns. People do not always choose what is healthy. Sometimes they choose what is familiar. Familiar does not mean good. It means recognizable. It means the nervous system knows the pattern, and until a person becomes conscious, they may mistake familiarity for love. They may confuse anxiety with passion. They may confuse inconsistency with excitement. They may confuse control with care. They may confuse self-abandonment with loyalty. They may confuse emotional distance with independence. This is why healing requires more than finding the right person. It requires becoming aware of the emotional blueprint we bring into relationships. Another way childhood shapes adult relationships is through the way people learn to see themselves. A child who was loved steadily may grow into a stronger sense of worth. But a child who was often criticized, ignored, compared, rejected, or shamed may carry a deep question. Am I enough? That question can quietly enter adult relationships. If I am enough, why did they become distant? If I am enough, why did they not choose me? If I am enough, why do I have to work so hard to be loved? When a person carries low self-worth, they may tolerate less than they deserve. They may accept emotional crumbs. They may believe they have to prove themselves constantly. They may feel guilty for having needs. They may apologize for asking for basic respect, or they may become defensive and guarded because any criticism touches an old wound of shame. This is why self-worth matters in relationships, because the way we believe we deserve to be treated shapes what we accept, what we chase, and what we ignore. A person who does not feel worthy of steady love may feel uncomfortable when love is actually steady. They may mistrust kindness. They may test the relationship. They may sabotage closeness. They may wait for rejection because rejection feels familiar. Healing begins when a person starts to separate the past from the present. They begin to say, this feeling is real, but it may be old. This fear is intense, but it may not be proof of danger. This reaction makes sense, but it may not be helping me now. This pattern protected me once, but it may be hurting me today. That awareness creates space, and in that space, a new response becomes possible. Instead of accusing, we can ask. Instead of withdrawing, we can explain. Instead of pleasing, we can set a boundary. Instead of assuming rejection, we can seek clarity. Instead of repeating the old pattern, we can pause and choose differently. This is not easy. Old patterns do not disappear simply because we notice them. They may return under stress. They may return when we feel rejected. They may return when love becomes vulnerable. But awareness gives us a beginning, and with practice, the old pattern can lose some of its power. This is also why healthy relationships can be healing, not because another person becomes our therapist, not because love magically fixes everything, but because safe relationships give us new experiences. A person who feared honesty may experience being heard without punishment. A person who feared abandonment may experience consistency. A person who feared closeness may experience connection without losing themselves. A person who felt unworthy may experience respect that does not have to be earned through self-betrayal. These repeated experiences can slowly teach the nervous system. This is different. I do not have to survive the old way here. But for that to happen, both people need awareness. The person with old wounds must be willing to recognize them, and the other person must be willing to relate with patience, honesty, and respect. No relationship can heal childhood wounds if it keeps repeating the same injuries. Safety is not created by words alone. It is created by behavior, consistency, kindness, boundaries, truth, repair, emotional responsibility. These are the conditions where healthier love can grow. So as we close this episode, remember this. Childhood does not write the final chapter of our relationships, but it often writes the first draft. It teaches us what to expect. It shapes what feels safe. It influences what we fear, what we tolerate, what we chase, and what we protect. But adulthood gives us the chance to edit the story, to question the patterns, to heal the wounds, to build relationships based not only on what we learned early, but on what we now choose consciously. The goal is not to blame the past. The goal is to stop letting the past silently choose our future. In the next episode, we will explore the quiet damage of unspoken expectations, how resentment grows when people expect others to understand needs, limits, and disappointments that have never been clearly expressed. If this video gave you something to reflect on, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And before you leave, ask yourself this: what childhood lesson about love am I still carrying into my adult relationships?